Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Pontiac Enchanté. My name is Carson Becke. I am one of the co-directors of this concert series, and this is one of our last two concerts of our 2020-2021 season. We were just hoping that we were going to be able to get through this season without having to change and move things around any more than we had to. But of course, with the most recent Quebec lockdowns, we had to postpone this concert and the one that's coming next weekend as well. But we're so happy to be back here today, and we're so happy to be back here next weekend. And as far as we can tell, with a little bit of hope, a little bit of luck, and just crossing our fingers, when we get into our summer and fall programming, more on that shortly, so please stay tuned for those announcements. We will hopefully be able to get into a hybrid format where we're going to be able to have at least a small audience here in the hall and also continue to present via live stream. So before I say anything else, I just wanted to thank everybody that's watching tonight and all of our audiences who have stayed loyal to us and who've kept watching our concerts since we started broadcasting in September last year. I know this is, it can be a challenge at times, but I appreciate your dedication to what we do so much, and we're so happy that you've supported us and continued to give us your love and support for us to do these concerts. So thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy today and tomorrow, and we look forward so much to bringing all of you back here in person. I'd just like to say a few quick notes of thanks. Those of you that have been watching for a few minutes saw our introductory slideshow, so you noticed there that we were thanking quite a few people for the work they've done to make sure that today's concert and our whole season can happen. But just to highlight a few individuals who are here with us today and have made specific efforts for this particular concert. So I'd like to thank Ross Murray so much. Ross is working on our sound today. He's making sure that you can hear Meghan and I as well as possible. I'd like to say a new thanks to Sean Rice. The lighting today is a little bit different, and Sean is a clarinetist. He actually is the second clarinetist with the NAC Orchestra, but has moonlighted as a wonderful video technician and lighting person since the pandemic began. So Sean's expertise is so welcome, and he's provided us with a really fantastic lighting setup today. So a massive thank you to Sean for that help. And finally, to my co-director, Tate Becke, who's making sure that you can see, hear, and everything else about this live stream today. I think that the correct term for Tate would be he is the production manager. So a huge thank you to Tate for everything he does to make sure that this live stream concert can happen. I've been saying a big thank you to all of our sponsors at every one of these concerts, because now more than ever, we would not be able to run our concert series without their support. So again, those names were listed in the slideshow, but I would just like to go through them one more time here, because I just want to make sure it's clear how grateful to them I am. And their support has been completely invaluable for us in keeping these live stream concerts going. So a big thank you, first of all, to Dasha Schenkman, to Marg Campbell, to Bob and Sandra Barber, to Norton Rose Fulbright, to RBC Rundell Wealth Management, and to the Desjardins Bank here in Quebec. Thank you to all of you for your support for this season, for past seasons, and all of your support ongoing. It means so much, and I really appreciate it. So thank you so much. You are all watching our concert today in our virtual concert hall platform, and I'd just like to take you through a few of the things that are available to you on that platform to make your viewing experience as enjoyable as possible. So first of all, to the left of the viewer, you'll see a button that says Download Concert Program and Text Translations. We always offer the program for you to look at. I would say that for today's concert, it's particularly important that you download the program. Quite a few of the songs that we will be performing are not in English. And there wasn't really a convenient way of flashing up the translations of the text as we went through the songs. So we've created a bit of a digital booklet for you. And if you'd like to know what's being sung at all times, when it's not in English, all of those translations are in that booklet. So just download the program. What we're playing is on the first page, biographies are on the second, and then after that follows a few pages with all of the translations. So please enjoy that. On the other hand, on the other side of the media viewer is a button that says Donate. So these concerts are being presented for free, but as many of you know, we've relied on your donations through our virtual series to keep this concert series going. We've been absolutely floored by the generosity through the year. In fact, an interesting stat is on average, the donations are higher than the price that we would actually charge for individual admittance. So your generosity has totally astounded us. But please, if you feel able, make a donation for this concert as well so we can keep going. Consider that to be the equivalent of a ticket desk for this online concert. Finally, in the media viewer itself, if you'd like this concert to be on the full screen of whatever device you're watching on, just hover your cursor over the media viewer and click on the little square in the bottom right-hand corner, and that will send the picture to full screen. I would also encourage you to just juggle around the volume controls a bit and make sure you're listening at a volume that's comfortable for you. So those are some of the things that are available to you in our virtual concert hall. If you were here at a concert in person, I would say leave us your email address on a little piece of paper at the back of the hall. But actually, that's one of the few things that is probably easier to do now that we're in this virtual world. So on the top right-hand corner of your screen, you'll see a button that says join our emailing list. If you click on that, leave us your email. That is our primary means of communication with our audience. So if you join our list, you'll get a message from us about once a month, just telling you what's coming up, what concerts we have going on. And importantly now, whether we'll be able to offer in-person tickets, how many tickets will be available, and how you'll be able to get them. That's going to be increasingly important as we go through the summer and into the fall. So if you're not already on our mailing list, we'd encourage you to join that at some point during today's concert. If you're on Facebook, you can also follow our Facebook page. Just search Pontiac Enchanté. Find us there, and we also post updates on that page about our concerts and some highlights for things that have already happened. So those are a few ways that you can keep in touch with us. So I guess now all that's left for me to do is to introduce my wonderful co-performer today. I'm so happy to be joined by Meghan Lindsay. Meghan and I are going to talk a little bit later in the program about her, about the things that she does, what she's been up to. So I'm not going to spoil that by telling you too much about her now. But I would just like to say she's a world-class singer who is originally from the Ottawa region and has recently moved back to Ottawa. So I'm so thrilled to have a singer of her caliber in this region. And it's just such a joy for me to get to work with her today. So Meghan, thank you so much for being here and for performing with me. And I think we should get on with some music. I think that sounds like a good plan. So our first piece today is Robert Schumann's Frauenliebe und Leben.
Seit ich ihn gesehen, glaub ich blind zu sein. Wo ich hin erblicke, seh ich ihn allein, wie immer schwebt seine Bild mir vor, taucht aus tiefstem Dunkel heller sonst ist Licht und farblos alles um mich hin. Nach der schwersten Schwere nicht begehrt ich mehr, möchte still im Kämmerlein, seit ich ihn Traume mich sterben, gewegen an sein Helft mir der Schwersten freundlich mich schmücken, den der glücklichen heute mir findet geschäftig mir um die Stirne, ob der blühenden Hirte Zier, all sich befriedigt, freudigen Herzen, sonst den Geliebten im Arme lag, immer noch Gräfen, Sehnsucht im Herzen, ungeduldig den heutigen Tag. meinem Herzen, an meine Brust, du meine Wunde, du meine Lust, das Glück ist die Liebe ist das Glück, ich hab's gesagt und nehm's nicht zurück, hab überschwänglich mich geschätzt, bin glücklich, aber jetzt, nur der da säugt, nur der da liebt, das Kind, dem sie die Nahrung gibt. Nur eine Mutter weiß allein, was Liebe heißt und glücklich sein. O, wie bedauer ich doch den Mann, der Mutter Glück nicht fühlen kann. Du lieber Engel, du schaust mich an und lächelst also an meinem Herzen, an meiner Brust. Du meine Wunder, du meiner Lust. Nun hast du mir der ersten Schmerz getan, der aber traf. Du schlafst, du harte Ruhm am Herzger Mann, den Todesschlaf. Es blicket die Verlassene vor sich hin. Die Welt ist leer, ist leer. Gelebt und gelebt. Ich bin nicht lebend müh. Ich zieh mich in mein Inneres still zurück. Der Schleier fällt. Da hab ich dich und mein verlornes Glück. Du meine Welt.
Well, greetings, everybody, and I'm very happy to be joined today by Mr. Christopher Johnson, who's going to talk to us a little bit about Rebecca Clarke and about her piece Binnorie, which we're performing in today's concert. Mr. Johnson is uniquely positioned to talk about Rebecca Clarke. First of all, he knew her personally. He is her great nephew, and developed a close relationship with her through the last years of her life, and also undertook a graduate school project where he cataloged her life's work with her, and sequentially went through her compositions with her, essentially to preserve them for posterity. And Mr. Johnson is now working on a book about Rebecca Clarke's life that I think is going to be very revealing in our understanding of her times and her music. So, Mr. Johnson, thank you so much for giving us your time today and for talking to me a little bit about Binnorie. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about it.
Enchanté.
So, actually, now I'd maybe like to zero in very specifically on Binnorie, which is the piece in question that our audience is about to hear. And I believe we're giving the Canadian premiere of this piece. For a composer so well known and at this point well performed throughout the world, it's unusual to have a piece of this size and this importance, being given a premiere in sort of any country in 2021. Considering that it was composed in the 1940s. So, first of all, tell us kind of the genesis of the piece compositionally, and then why the piece sort of faded from public view.
Well, as you say, it's a mystery. We don't know the genesis of the piece. I've got a couple of pieces of hard information that I can kind of put together and make some educated guesses. But no, she didn't bring it out for the catalog. She, as far as I can tell, never referred to it. She didn't tell me about it. She never spoke to Dan about it. None of the relatives remember anything about it. She made any number of works lists and little biographical statements about herself over 70 years.
Yeah.
Never referred to it or anything even faintly suggesting its existence there. But when I was doing the catalog, actually before that, she would always sort of slyly point to the 3 drawers in her music cabinet where she kept her manuscripts. She wouldn't let you see them necessarily, but she let you know where they were. And after James Friskin, her husband, died, she had a series of female piano students from Juilliard who came and stayed with her and got room and board and use of the piano to practice. Magnificent Steinway. You'd be jealous. I'm jealous. It's a great instrument. Anyway, she'd always tell them, don't look, don't go there. And I don't know if it was a briar patch kind of thing, whether it was, she was actually saying, go and look at it, please, just don't tell me you're doing it. But she always insisted. At any rate, we all knew where the manuscripts were. And then when I persuaded her to do the catalog, she went and got them out. And there they all were, piled up all over her dining room until she got sick of having me underfoot and said, take them away, get them out of here. Which of course was perfectly terrifying. I mean, here you are with this composer's life's work in your briefcase, thinking, my God, what's going to happen on the subway? I hated every minute of it. I couldn't wait to get those things back to her. But at any rate, as far as I knew, we had the lot of the extant manuscripts and the published editions. She never mentioned it. I had no inkling of it until about 10 years or so after her death. Dan was tidying up that music cabinet and he opened a drawer. This is one over from the 3 where she told everybody she had her stuff. Pulls the drawer out. There's this kind of spectacular looking manuscript. And he pulls it out and it's Binnorie.
Hmm.
Not only is it Binnorie, it's, and this is very unusual for her, at least 2 stages of sketch material in pencil. She'd, you know, when she'd work through one stage of something, throw it out, get
Okay.
rid of it. She rewrote 2 pieces from decades earlier while I was doing the catalog. And in one case, destroyed the originals. They got taken out before anybody knew about it. And in the second case, Dan found the ripped up originals in the trash can and went back to her and said, Becke, people are going to want to know about this someday. What are you thinking? And she just stopped and glared at him over the top of her glasses and said, Dan, I'm not Beethoven, you know. But it was just, you know, unrepentant about posterity's loss. If she was done with it, it was gone. It went into the trash.
Yeah.
But here's this heavily worked over, mostly ink manuscript with all kinds of revisions on top of it. And then these fairly substantial sketches in pencil, which are even wilder. I mean, there's nothing like this in Clarke's papers. It's like a battlefield.
Hmm. Yeah.
But just as a visual item, it's unique in everything I've ever seen of her. And the curious thing about it, it's a long piece.
Yes, it is a long piece.
Generally
I
about
mean,
12 and a half minutes in performance.
and her longest work for voice and piano, I think, right? It's the most substantial.
Yes, by far. At any rate, I mean, it's the kind of thing, and again, when you see the manuscript materials and the furious physical energy that's going into it, she's normally very, I mean, she's very definite. It's a bold hand, but it's clean.
Yeah.
And this stuff is just all over the place. You could, it almost smokes.
Yeah.
Still. So you look at it and you think, what on earth is this? And how could she clean forget it?
Yeah, doesn't sound like something very forbidden.
And there were a couple of things that actually were discovered at about the same time in a different part of the apartment, just stuffed in a box with old X-rays in the back of a closet somewhere. All kinds of things from her Royal College days, and from later on, that she had remembered and that had gone into the catalog, but identified as lost items.
Okay.
So we had a title, we had an instrumentation or disposition of forces, an approximate date, and in some cases some other information. But when the catalog was done in 1976, lost. Turned out they were there. But you see the distinction. She remembered the piece.
Yeah.
She was able to go back and cobble up some kind of date to attach to it. Binnorie, crickets, nothing. Afterwards, when I started trying to research the background, I went back around to the relatives of the generation between hers and ours that was closest to her in terms of her music and her arrangements for it, and asked if she remembered anything about it. Actually, there were 2 of them. One of them was Dumka, which is a wonderful piece she wrote at roughly the same time for violin, viola, and piano. And I just mentioned the name, and she launches into the main theme at pitch.
Right.
Hadn't heard it until 60 years later. And then I thought, well, I'm on a roll here. Let's ask about Binnorie.
Yeah.
She remembered vividly that when Clarke was living with them on Morningside Drive in Manhattan during the war, her mother was Clarke's sister-in-law, was reading to her daughters when they came home from high school in the afternoon during tea time. And while Clarke was with them, she was reading Dorothy Sayers' Strong Poison, which quotes the refrain in Binnorie in a very vivid way.
Yeah.
Bunter says something and Lord Peter chimes in with, Binnorie, and goes off. There were Trois Sisters, something, which has to do with that plot.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, well, okay, we've got we've got some kind of connectivity here.
Yeah.
I also have Clarke's copy of the Oxford Book of English Verse, which she mined for song texts for most of her career.
Mm-hmm.
It's right there. It's a traditional ballad text going back to the, I don't know, 17th century Scotland. So there are an infinite number of variants, but the manuscript matches syllable for syllable. Even the orthography matches the Oxford Book of English Verse. Okay, we got two strong connections here. Yeah. And then I started looking at the thing, and the plot and the cast of characters kept seeming familiar. It kept ringing a faint little distant bell that I couldn't quite put my finger on. And for some reason, I was writing up this episode in her life when there was so much family conflict and tension during the war years, with her living with one brother and then the other. And I thought, wait. There's a story there. There's a story there. There was an incident that she told at least family members about over and over and over again. During World War II, her brothers apparently came under a great deal of pressure from their wives and to some extent from their children to, cool it on the Beckel. This was her family nickname, Beccle, Beckel, short for Rebecca. Can we have a break from her here? So their solution, crazy as it sounds in retrospect, was to have her evaluated by a psychoanalyst.
Right. Okay.
I mean, I don't know that anybody thought she was crazy or anything, but this was the idea. So her brother Hans was a biochemist, taught at Columbia. So he knew people at Physicians and Surgeons uptown, now what's part of Columbia Presbyterian. Mm-hmm. So he knows one of the top of the line psychoanalysts up there. He makes the arrangement, makes an appointment. She toddles off to the psychiatrist. She said she didn't feel like she could say no under the circumstances that she's living under their roof. She sits down with the analyst. He does a sort of basic intake, basic personal information, family information. And then he starts talking about her music or her as a musician. And she tells him a little bit about that. And then he admits that he is an enthusiastic amateur musician himself. And at that point, all bets are off. They just sit there and talk shop for the rest of the session. Music, happy. And she finally wakes up towards the end of the hour and realizes why she's there and gets all anxious. And she looks at the doctor and says, "Well, doctor, what's the matter with me?" And he just gives her a smile and shrugs his shoulders and says, "Oh, nothing wrong with you. But I'd say you've got two very determined sisters-in-law."
Okay, interesting. So
and that was the end of it. He didn't suggest that she return for treatment. He just, that was it. Hey, you're fine. You're just living in a nutty milieu. Okay. So there it was.
So there might be something having to do with this family tension. That
two sisters-in-law, 12 sisters sitting in a boor. Yeah. So, and if you look at the poem, everything about it matches up. You've got sisterly jealousy. Sisterly envy. And actually, there's a great deal of sibling envy all over the place because everyone in the family had been pushed to be musical in some way, to play an instrument, to take part in family. Chamber music is a big tradition, even in my wife's generation. There was still this family pressure to do something there, even if you were no good, even if you didn't care, even if you didn't want to. So in Clarke's time, she's surrounded by all these people who either are musicians professionally to some degree, or are really determined amateurs. And everybody has very high standards and thinks that they know everything that's worth knowing about music. And also, I don't know how aware Clarke was of this, but most of her family had total disdain for her compositions.
Okay, right.
They thought they were modern, they were dissonant, they were unpleasant to listen to. She's just piddling away what talent she has, wasting her time. One of them even thought she never should have had a musical career at all and should have married and hung it up. So, she's surrounded by this cloud of misunderstanding. For whatever reason, she's dependent on these people.
Yeah.
In wartime to put a roof over her head.
Yeah.
It's a messy situation, and I can kind of believe that it might have been probably a unique instance of her spontaneously writing a piece of music directly out of a personal experience in her life. I mean, it fits. It's at least arguable. And it explains the piece, and it also explains the silence.
Well, I'm so grateful for the work that you've done on Clarke in general, just to kind of illuminate aspects of this fascinating composer, who I think is one of the most important composers of the 20th century. And some of the music that she's written is among my favorite music written in the past century. So I'm so grateful to you for the work that you've done to bring things about her to public attention, for the detail and depth of your knowledge about her, and also for doing what you've done to make Binnorie available to us. Because without the work that you and your brother-in-law Dan have done, we wouldn't have this absolute masterwork to savor and to enjoy. So I think now is a good time to head back to the concert hall and to hear a performance of Rebecca Clarke's Binnorie. So Christopher Johnson, thank you so much for your time this afternoon, and for everything that you've been able to say and tell us about Rebecca Clarke and Binnorie.
Oh, thank you, Carson. You're very kind. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks a lot. Well, one of the really wonderful things about doing these live stream concerts is that we've been able to have these little interview segments with some of the artists that we've had performing here at Pontiac Enchanté, where we can just learn a bit more about them and they can tell you a bit about themselves. So Megan, thanks so much for talking a little bit today.
Thank you so much for having me. This is really exciting.
So as many of you will know, Meghan is originally from the Ottawa region, but has lived away from Ottawa for a long time. She studied at the Glenn Gould School in Toronto. That's where she completed her undergraduate studies, and then moved over to Europe, where she was a member of the Opera Studio in the Netherlands. She's since performed across Europe, across North America, and recently she and her husband Juan made, well, Old Chelsea and the National Capital Region more generally their home. So first of all, welcome home, welcome back to the region, and I can't tell you how excited I am to have yet another great musician in the region, and I think I can speak for the whole community in just saying it's just so wonderful to have you here. So welcome back, and how do you like your return to the region?
Thank you so much for the warm welcome. I'm really excited to be back. It was a journey to get here, and I'm sure with so many musicians, with so many people in the midst of COVID-19, life and the things surrounding it have changed so much. So we were in Chicago prior, and I was newly pregnant, and when the pandemic hit, we realized, well, there are going to have to be some life changes, both in terms of place, in terms of things like borders. So we came back and we settled in Chelsea, just off the 105, and it's been beautiful. The ability to reconnect with nature, to have family close by, to meet and collaborate with musicians like you, it's really exciting.
Great. Well, like I said, it's just such a pleasure to have you in the region. Something that I find wonderful about you and the work that you do as a musician and otherwise is you have such a diverse range of interests. So, you're a singer, you do opera, but there's so much more as well, actually. So do you want to just talk a little bit about some of the things that you do, some of your interests as a singer, but also musically more widely and otherwise too?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that's really interesting to me about, being an artist in the 21st century is dispelling the myth that we live in these silos, dispelling the myth that we do just one thing.
Yeah.
I think there was at a time the expectation, especially within classical music communities, that if you didn't only and exclusively do your art 24/7, you are less than an artist. And I can say, from somebody who has done my art as my career, but also who I have a variety of different interests in academia, in research, in policy, and I'll talk about those in a little bit, that they really contribute to my artistic output. Like, I feel more grounded when I'm able to have a wider variety of interests.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And actually I feel that way even coming back to Chelsea, being able to go for nice walks, but really take in this beautiful landscape is such an important thing. So when I was, I don't exactly remember when it was, but I was about 2016-17, I was curious about some of the cultures and the systems surrounding classical music and the world in which we operate. So I went back and did a master's through Carleton, actually, which was primarily remote at the time, looking at policy, nonprofit governance, the ethics, and the structures that surround that. And now I am doing my PhD in cultural theory and cultural studies at Queen's, really looking at ideas of impact and evaluation in the arts, why we choose to demonstrate our worth, and how that can maybe reify structures of harm, and what are the ways that we could reconsider things. I know that seems kind of ambiguous, but it is right now, and I think that's one of the things to also look at is where is it okay for it to be ambiguous?
Yeah, absolutely.
So from a career perspective, I work in research and in academia, and also my work in opera, in a lot of Baroque opera, classical opera. I love doing recitals, and I'm so excited that you're here. I love doing interdisciplinary collaboration as well.
So you've got a an organization, I guess, that you run along with Juan, which is called New Art, New Media.
Yeah,
So
organization. We'll say that loosely.
So what is New Art, New Media? What do you guys do?
Yeah, so we call it a container for projects.
Okay,
which is really...
I should have used the word container. Yeah.
Oh, hey, I'm putting it out there for the first time now. So, yeah, it's a container for projects, and it came out of this, kind of this want and a deep desire to have this relational approach to art making.
Yeah.
There are so many wonderful artists doing great things, and how can we work beyond silos to just do things together? So we've collaborated with phenomenal visual artists. Next year we'll be premiering 3 different chamber compositions. One with Chris Ausniaks, who is a Latvian American composer, and we worked with a Canadian visual artist, Canadian poet, and myself to co-construct a piece of chamber music.
Cool.
Luis Fernando Amaya and Alex McLeod, a digital artist and a composer, to imagine the sonic languages of trees and how we can interpret those visually as well. And then Matthias McIntyre, who's a Canadian composer, has written a piece for electronics, piano and voice for Rachel Fenlon, who is both singer and pianist. And so we have supported that commission. So, and on top of that, kind of a harken back to some of the work that we do as classical musicians, we're looking at Frauenliebe und Leben, one of the pieces that we're doing today, that kind of looks at the politics of the piece, reimagines perceptions of mother, of woman, and I'm excited to say that you'll be playing piano.
That's right, yeah, that's right.
For that. So all of this will be coming within the next year or so.
Yeah.
I could tell you dates, but I don't think we have them yet, so they would change.
Well, I mean, I feel like in the current world of COVID, if we can plan 2 weeks ahead, that's considered to be like a major victory.
Right?
So having dates for things is no longer part of the artistic spectrum.
Totally.
Well, maybe just to finish, and kind of tying into what you were just talking about, having to do with motherhood, and I guess this sort of brings everything together because it also kind of has, a huge part to play in your life right now in Old Chelsea. One group of pieces on our program today specifically has to do with motherhood and experiences of motherhood. Do you want to just talk a little bit about your experience of that and how you've tried to kind of bring that into your music making as well? And that'll be a nice segue into our next group as well, I think.
Totally. So I think it's an interesting thing. Musicians, athletes, anybody who uses their body as labor, I think coming into motherhood, I was nervous, excited, curious about how my body would change, how my voice would change, how my relationship with space would change, and it all does. It's hugely transformational, and in a really beautiful way. And in some ways, COVID-19 has allowed the space to unpack all of that. So when we came to music making, kind of as the pandemic is allowing doors to open slightly, I was curious about what that meant in terms of repertoire. Frauenliebe is a very overt example of, motherhood, not unproblematic in some parts, but also really beautiful in some. And then one of the things that I was curious about is this embodied feeling, this connected feeling that I've really experienced as a mother, how to let that live in repertoire. So some of the Spanish songs that we've chosen, the French songs, is almost in some ways a reclaiming of this like feels good in my bones, deep womanhood that maybe I was not comfortable to articulate before being a mother.
Okay.
Maybe I didn't articulate it until just now. But I think so. It's this interesting dichotomy of like, what does it mean to do this music now? It means looking at the past. It means examining places for change. It means this that nothing is essentialist, and that it can be kind of like the Harry of classical music with also the beautiful strength and surrender that comes in the embodied art making. So I think the first half of this program really looks at, like, there's the Binnorie, which is just a really cool piece to be able to collaborate on, that maybe doesn't tie in as actively to themes of motherhood, but Frauenliebe, which does. And then as we go through, we have some songs that speak overtly to the experience of motherhood, the Dvorak, the Strauss. And then there are these pieces more that I feel like are just, that come to that embodied space.
Okay.
From my perspective. And
Well, it's been so fun to build this program with you and to collaborate with you, and I think now is a really good time to get back to doing that. So Meghan, thanks so much for just telling us a bit about you and your life today, and I hope everybody enjoys the remaining parts of the concert. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Sleep, my baby, rest, my loved one, softly slumber now with me, clasped in mother's arms so tender, warm in mother's love for thee. Not shall ever come to harm thee, while my loving watch I keep. Now, my baby, smile and slumber, while I sing you a lullaby.
So I chose to sing that piece, Sorgan, for a couple of reasons. First, because there's something wildly unrestful about the Strauss. We chose a couple of pieces, the Dvorak, the Strauss, and Sorgan, that related to motherhood in some capacity, both because of its link to Frauenliebe, but also because I am a mother to an almost 8-month-old beautiful baby girl named Isla. So I figured, if she's watching, which I hope she isn't because it might be a bit late, that the Sorgan would be a bit more restful than the Strauss. As we move forward, we've explored a couple of different things, and as we move forward, some of the pieces are just those that are fun to sing. Exploring Spanish rep is exciting for me because I hope to one day be able to speak Spanish to my daughter. My husband is Hispanic. And yeah, so the next couple of songs are just exploring things that feel nice and hopes for the future.
Well, thank you all so much for listening today. And Megan, thank you so much. That was a ton of fun to play. And your voice is wonderful. And it's just amazing that you're doing this so shortly after having a child. And I think it's amazing that you're able to bring that element into the program as well. So thank you so much for that performance today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
It's been a huge pleasure. Yeah. So as many of you will know, this concert is available on our virtual concert hall for the next 7 days until next Sunday. Next Sunday, the good news for you is that we have another concert being broadcast starting at 2 o'clock Sunday afternoon. That's because actually our performer has roots in Great Britain, so we're thinking that we can attract some viewers from Britain at 7 o'clock p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. So 2 o'clock p.m. next Sunday, Sophia Yatsiuk and Seren Berry are going to play a program of music featuring more pieces by Rebecca Clarke, who you heard today, Ethel Smythe and Gabrielle Fauré, among others. The program is for violin and piano, so please tune in then. I'm going to make a more substantive announcement then about what we're doing in the summer, but I'll just give you a teaser to leave you today. So first of all, keep the dates August 14th and 15th free in your calendars. We're going to be hosting an outdoor event. You will be seated on a lovely seat in the grass. And I will tell you that the concert is going to have something to do with the fact that time in August is when the Perseid meteor showers are at their height. So we're going to be outdoors, and ideally we're going to be looking at meteors while listening to music themed around planets and other things like that. So I'll leave you with that for today, and I'll fill you in on full details next week. So thank you again so much for listening today. Remember to donate if you enjoyed today's concert, and looking forward to seeing you next week. Thank you very much. We actually have one extra thing to do for you today. I want to make a special dedication, I guess, of this concert and of this moment to my grandfather, who is turning 96 today. My grandfather's name is Helmut Becke. Those of you that have been here at concerts will have seen him many times. So I sort of feel like wishing him happy birthday in this context makes sense, because he is one of our our longest supporters, and my grandparents are always here when we're able to do concerts in person. So Opa, happy birthday, and I think Megan is very happy to sing happy birthday for you. So I think that's how we'll finish today. Is A major okay? Is that yeah? Okay. I'll give a little introduction, then we can get it. And feel free to sing along at home. So Opa, happy birthday. I hope it's a great day. And to everybody else, thank you so much for listening today. Good evening.